Olá, boa noite, seja bem-vindo a mais um encontro nosso no 7 a 7. Nesta semana eu vou compartilhar com vocês alguns trechos de um vídeo, de uma palestra proferida pelo pastor presbiteriano norte-americano Timothy Keller na Inglaterra, por ocasião de um encontro no parlamento britânico. Tim Keller fala sobre a contribuição do cristianismo para o século XXI. E ele vai nos abordar nesta palestra alguns elementos muito importantes e eu convido você a acompanhar. Para que nós tenhamos a oportunidade de aproveitar bem, eu vou dividir cada dia um pedacinho. Então, ao longo da semana, nós vamos refletir um pouco. Esta primeira parte da palestra, eu destacaria de sua fala a ideia bíblica do reino de Deus ou da fé cristã como o bom fermento. A parábola que o nosso Senhor Jesus Cristo descreveu, descreve bem isso, e que ele proferiu e foi registrado por Mateus no capítulo 13, versículo 33, nos diz o seguinte: Disse-lhe Jesus outra parábola: O reino dos céus é semelhante ao fermento que uma mulher tomou e escondeu em 3 medidas de farinha até ficar tudo levedado. Não existe nenhuma coisa como uma cultura cristã, mas certamente existe uma influência cristã na cultura, como um bom fermento. Acompanhe este vídeo.
Isaac Watts has a hymn in which he talks about peculiar honors. This does feel peculiar for me to be, as an American, talking to you about this subject, but it is an honor. I should go down the list of all the people I should be venerating as I speak to you, but because I'm an American, I know I'll get that list wrong, and you've already gone through the list a couple times. And so I'm glad to be addressing you on this subject. The subject is, what can Christianity offer British, Western, our society in the 21st century? And I'd like to answer that question from the last verse that was just read to you out of that famous passage. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. Now, Jesus is using a metaphor, salt, and when salt is dispersed into meat, it is both savory and preservative. On the one hand, it's savory, it brings out the taste, the best in the meat, but on the other hand, it's a preservative, it keeps it from decaying, but only if the salt is salt. That is, only if it's chemically different than the meat. If it's not different chemically from the meat, then it's of no use at all. The metaphor Jesus is using is to say that his disciples, that's the Christians, should be dispersed in the societies of the world. We're the salt of the earth, he says. That doesn't mean the ground, he means the world, society. And in every society, that means that Jesus says, my disciples should be bringing out the best in that particular culture and preventing its worst tendencies as well. But only if Christians remain salt, which is different from the rest of the culture. So I'd like to unpack that a little bit and look at how Christians have been salt in a massive way in Western society, how they still can be salt, but only if they stay themselves. Salt only is helpful to the meat if it's not like the meat, if it's itself. So 1, 2, 3. First, Christianity has been massively salt in our society already, and it still is operating today. There's a professor at a major American university, professor of history, that had, I think, in a very effective way of helping his students see how Western society had developed over the years. And here's what he would do with his students. He would give them a thought experiment. He would say, imagine it's late at night and you are on a lonely street and you see a little old lady coming, walking along with a big purse filled with jewels and money. And you know that to take it, here's 3 things you know for this thought experiment. Number 1, she could not resist you. Number 2, she probably wouldn't even be able to identify you if you took it. And number 3, in this particular time and place, it's not against the law to do it. okay, for the sake of the thought experiment. She won't be able to resist you, she won't be able to identify you, and it's really not even against the law to do it. Do you do it, yes or no, and why? So the first question he would ask them is, do you do it, yes or no? And of course, you wouldn't be surprised to know that over the years, in spite of the fact that in this thought experiment it's not against the law, virtually all of his students always said, no, you don't. And then he would say, let me give you 3 reasons why, and I want you to identify which one is your reason. A, you don't do it because for you to take that money from that person would mean you would be a weak person. You would be a dishonorable person. To pick on a weak person means you would be weak. You wouldn't respect yourself. No one else would respect you. That's A. B, you don't take it because you think about her. You imagine what it would be like for her to lose that money. You imagine who might be dependent on her. Okay? So A, because you don't do it because you would be weak. B, you don't do it because it would hurt her. And C, something else. None of the above. And of course, you might guess, over the years, almost 100% of his students always picked B. And then he would begin to teach. He said A is an other-directed, A is a self-regarding ethic. It comes from a shame and honor culture in which strength is what really matters, strength and honor. B is an other-regarding ethic in which the ultimate value is love. Now, he said, when the Anglo-Saxons met the monks, when the pagan Anglo-Saxons met the monks, they were in a shame and honor culture. And the reason they wouldn't take that money would be because they would be a weak person. But when the monks came along, the Christian monks with this other regarding ethic, an ethic of love, the Anglo-Saxons thought this is crazy. Why, the only thing that holds society together is respect for strength and a certain amount of fear for strength. Society would completely fall apart otherwise. And of course, the Christians won. Christianity won out. And this is where the professor would make his point. He says, I don't care whether you're a Christian or not in this room. And he says, I don't care even whether you believe in God. Personally, it doesn't matter. The point is, you have been shaped by Christianity. Your moral sense is not the moral sense of an Eastern or ancient shame and honor culture in which strength is the most important thing. You have an other regarding ethic, an ethic of love, and that came from Christianity. Because the monks came saying, it doesn't matter the social class of the person, it doesn't matter your social class or their social class, everyone must be loved for their sake. Now, as soon as you begin to think about this, you begin to realize how this worked itself out through Western civilization.